Yum, yum!
Hello, Pascal here. I recently had to create a fluttering ribbon for a job, and I thought I would show you how I did it. It's very simple. This is actually a good way to look at how to combine deformers inside Modo. So here's my setup. It's very simple. I have my ribbon here. So just a strip of polygons. And I have two curves. I have this first curve here, which is lined up with the ribbon, a straight line. And then this other one, which is my random path that I would like the ribbon to follow. So go back to item mode, select the ribbon, go to this tab here and select the spline deformer. Click on selected mesh. This otherwise will give you the number of points along the line, but I use selected mesh and click. So now you have here a spline deformer, and you don't see it on the viewport because it's not set up completely yet. So I'm going to select both the ribbon and the spline and click on Add Selected here in the schematic view. So here's my spline effector, the mesh. All right. So in the spline effector that you select here, you select your source curve, which is my curve start, and your target. And there you go. Some options here, like if you check orbit curve, it changes the way the spline acts on the mesh. You can just play with the options, but let's get going. So to move the mesh along the spline, all you have to do is animate this slide option. Elastic means that the mesh is going to adapt to the length of the spline, so it's going to stretch. If you want to keep the exact length of your original mesh, just press 0%, and it's just going to follow the spline along. So slide is how you control where your mesh is positioned on the spline and how you animate it, which is what we're going to do. So let's say we'll start at 0 here. Click on this circle to create a keyframe and do it. We'll do one, like -0.5, for instance. And at 60 frames, we'll do 2. That would be too much, so let's do 1. All right. So when you have the animation, the ribbon follows. So that's well. Let's uncheck that because we don't need it anymore. But as I said, we're going to do a fluttering ribbon because that's sort of a snake-like, which could be what you want, but it's not what I want. So we're going to add another deformer. Click on the ribbon here and add fall off, linear fall off. A little big, so we're going to narrow it down. We just wanted to cover the length of the ribbon here. All right, and let's move this here. Now we have to plug the ribbon into it to assign it to the deformer. And then we have to make sure it's applied before the spline. So we're going to add a tab to get the deformers here. It's not visible in this setup viewport. So you go to click on the little plus here, go to data lists, deformer lists. And see the spline, since we added it first, is below the linear fall off, so it would act after, it would act, sorry, before, which is not what we want. So let's take it and drag it above. All right, so now linear fall off. I'm going to select it, right click, go to shade, create item mask. Go to shading, and in this FX group here, you have your mask. And this is how you're going to modulate the way the fall off is going to act on the ribbon, because right now, make sure you select deformer enable here. If I move it, see the whole ribbon moves, which is something already, but what we want is to modulate that. And so we're going to add a noise texture, so textures, noise, and maybe lower the scale, like let's do 0.2 meters. And when we move the deformer, you can start seeing the wavy effect that we want. So maybe here we go. So now when we play our animation, we have our fluttering ribbon. But we're still not done yet, because what's happening is that the noise is static, so the deformations happen always at the same place. You can see this bump, for instance, it just stays there the whole time. So you can either animate the fall off, or what I like doing is animate the texture. So we're going to animate the noise texture here. Select the position X, for instance. Add one keyframe at 0 and at 60. We'll add another one and do like 0.5. While this is selected, press F7 to bring up the graph editor, A to fit the view. Select both keyframes and choose linear in and linear out. This way you have a constant speed, and to modify the speed, all you have to do is modify this keyframe position. Oh, and by the way, if you middle click while dragging, it's going to stay on its axis here. All right, so now I have my fluttering ribbon. And this is a great way to animate organically without resorting to dynamics. You can experiment with different textures, different fall-offs. Like for instance, I have here a very simple setup with a flag. You can imagine animating cloth, water. All right, have fun. Bye.
Yum, 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 yum.